Welcome to Max Value, a show dedicated to helping business owners and their professional advisors maximize value. We talk about business valuation, exit planning, global staffing, and a lot of other interesting topics. I'm your host, Ben Towne, and today we are joined by Tessa Baragasa, owner of Birdie Consulting based in Bogota, Colombia. I think I even pronounced that right. Her company provides virtual assistants, IT service professionals, and a host of other support staff for American companies. She's here to talk to us today about how hiring a VA can transform your life as a business owner and operator. So Tessa, thank you very much for coming on. Can you please tell us a little bit about yourself and your journey to Colombia?
Yes, thank you, Ben. So I ended up in Colombia, natural fit. My husband is Colombian, so we just started our life here in Bogota. And we actually started the company initially just to service IT companies, MSPs, around the United States. California was our first client. And that's kind of how we got started. It seemed like a good fit for nearshoring to the United States because time zone congruence, the cultural alignment. And to be honest, there's a lot of professional people in Colombia looking for good opportunities, and they have English, they have the experience, and they have the skills. They just need the opportunity. So we saw that and decided to go for it, to try our hand at the business here and see how it works. And so far it's been a success for us both personally and professionally, I would say. So it's enriched our lives in multiple levels.
Awesome. And it's been 2 or 3 years now?
Yeah, we started it in February of 2022. So sorry, I was going to say March, but I think February is our actual official start date. So
Got to get that.
We're going on. Yeah, exactly.
So as not to bury the lead, I wanted to also mention right now that we are a client. My company, Towne Advisory and Assurant Advisors, are clients of Birdie Consulting, and we utilize a virtual assistant. But that being said, and we'll get to that more later, Tessa, maybe you can tell us a little bit about what a VA or virtual assistant really is. What does that mean?
Yeah, so when I envision a virtual assistant, and when we began this part of our business to start hiring virtual assistants, our vision was to hire people who can help professionals like yourself offload your own busy tasks tasks that you don't necessarily need to be doing yourself, things that can be done in the background, so that you have more time and freedom to dedicate to other tasks that are more important for you to be doing in person. So anything that can be done remotely, we figure we can hire staffing for. And so in this instance, I think for you, the virtual assistant has been very helpful in helping you manage your calendars, managing your email inbox. We can touch on that later, what else she helps you with. But yeah, I think that was our main motivation in looking to hire this position, was just to find people that can help professionals like yourself free your schedule and free your workload.
Well, and free up the time to be able to do this, which I've enjoyed a ton.
Yes.
So thank you for that. Next question. Why Colombia? Why is it such a good place to get talent for this purpose?
Yeah. So like I mentioned earlier in the introduction, that we find that there's an abundance of talent here who are not only skilled, but also have high levels of English. And so it seems like a good fit. And again, the time zone thing is really important for American clients. We're currently in Central Time. So we're the same time zone as Chicago, the same time zone as Texas. We're 2 hours different from California and 1 hour off of East Coast time. So for most of the United States, this time zone works perfectly. The other factor is most people here are very familiar with American culture. It's so much a part of the culture here, even so that it's not like that big of a leap for the for the communication aspect.
Yeah, and then I found no gap at all from the standpoint of kind of common reference. I mean, it's still very I'll say very Western in terms of how people just talk and some of the social mores and that sort of thing.
Yeah.
Okay, so but getting right into it then, how is it that you find your people?
Yeah, so that's a great question. We have used a variety of means to find people. Primarily, we use a recruiter. She's on our staff here locally, and she searches for. We set a profile based on the client's needs, and so then as the client, you would set the parameters for kind of the main things that you're looking for in a virtual assistant. Then we have our recruiter go set a search based on those parameters, and she does the first filtering process. But in other cases, we have found our talent through friends of our current employees, friends or family of current employees that have been recommended to us. And yeah, I don't want to rank our employees, but some of our top people have come from those recommendations. So yeah, we've done it through a variety of mediums, but we mainly use the recruiter for most of our searches.
Gotcha, that makes sense. Somebody dedicated to going and finding the right people. So when you are finding these right people for businesses, what types of businesses are really often using VAs and most successfully, and why is it the case that they are successful at it?
Yeah, so I think the businesses that have found the most success with this are professional sector, service industry, like professional services, like yourself. We actually some of our IT companies have also used virtual assistants for various tasks. And what works the best is when they're already set up and understand what remote work is and how it's going to work. So that piece is already in place. And so hiring somebody abroad, it's almost like they're not abroad. They're just a part of the team. They're integrated right away. And so the remote work is just secondary to the fact that this is like an in-office atmosphere, and the person feels like they're a part of the team that they go to work for. And that's been where we found the most success, is when it's not an us and them aspect. It's more of a just us. This is our team, and it doesn't matter that they're in Colombia or they're in the United States. This is just our team. And our clients that have taken that approach have had immense success with this model.
Absolutely. Well, and I found that to be the case personally. Whenever we're talking about using remote staffing or global staffing, or however you want to term it, in this case, maybe nearshoring is a good descriptor as well. There's a lot of challenges. What are the mythical challenges, the ones that don't really exist, but exist in people's minds, and so they are real from that standpoint. And then there are the ones that are an actual challenge. I mean, so let's talk about those for a second. Maybe you can talk about the communication barriers, if any.
Yeah, so the communication barriers, like I mentioned earlier, I think that can be eliminated if you do truly integrate them as a part of your team. If you add them to your teams or your Slack channels, whatever it is, and you have a daily communication, and it's not like I meet with this person once a week. No, this person is like, they could be in the room next to me. So that communication, if it's just steady and constant, and there's a steady stream, and it's an open channel for both parties, that's when it works the best. And as far as the language barrier goes, like the communication piece, like I said, there's an abundance of talent here that has high levels of English, and that's a part of our filtering process as well, is to make sure that they have a level of English that communication piece is non-existent. So, but yeah, as far as interpersonal communication goes, like I said, I think the most important thing is just to make sure that person is included in whatever it is that your team is doing, and that's where the most success has been found.
So another question, maybe one that's, I'll say, more in the reality sector, is, how do you deal with confidential information and information security? Because a lot of professional service firms really do work with some sensitive information from our clients, et cetera. So that is a true concern. How do you guys deal with that?
Absolutely. And it's a very valid concern. But I would say that it would be the same almost as if you were to hire an employee locally. You give them access to the things that you want them to have access to, and you control that on your systems and with your own personal IT teams. Um, so yeah, but it's a very valid concern. But like I mentioned, it's just that's a piece that would need to be handled internally on your end to make sure that they're only having access to the things that you want them to have access to. But there is, on our end, all of our employees are subjected to sign a confidentiality agreement to be an employee. So on our end, we do everything that we can in our power to ensure that you're secure with your data. And then that's combined with the piece that you do on your end. We try to do everything we can to ensure that confidentiality piece.
Right. And so I think the key component there, right, is that you're working together with the client, because it's really going to be under the umbrella of what their what do they call it? Info security posture. I think that's how they say it. The IT people who are much smarter than me at this stuff, but it does sound official. But essentially, how the client, i.e., me, would make sure that any team member is being safe and confidential with information. So that totally makes sense. And the coordination between the two sides of that is the key component. So a little bit of a off the wall question next is, I've gotten asked this before. Do you ever get asked if this remote work is exploitative of the Colombian labor force?
Yeah, that's a great question, and it's a valid concern also. Yes, we have been asked at various times about that aspect, especially about outsourcing in general, because sometimes it can kind of have a bad name. But one of the things that we set out to do when we began this business was to create a model that we're not going to be that kind of a business. We place a priority on our employees' well-being, and that includes like frequently checking up on them, making sure that they're okay, that their workload is okay. And that's the piece that my husband does more than me, because he is Colombian. He understands their culture. He understands the language here more than I do. And he can communicate with them on a level that really I can't enter into as deeply. So he can play that role kind of in the background, making sure that they're okay, they have everything they need, they're not being exploited during their work hours. But we also try to set some fences as far as that goes too with the clients. So we create a schedule, and they're going to work this many hours, and that cannot be exceeded. And if it does get exceeded, then we need to know about that immediately so we can step in and intervene. So we try to play that role as a bridge between client and employee so that doesn't happen. We do everything in our power to make that not be a factor. But as far as that goes, as you as a client, you also have a role to play in that, and to making sure that you're not overloading the workload and the employee with more than they can handle, and understanding kind of too what their limits are, and what they're capable of. So I think it's a team player event that we all work together in making sure that doesn't happen. So does that make sense?
Oh, yeah, totally does. I mean, there's responsibility on both sides. And of course, there are horror stories out there.
Mm-hmm.
Not that we need to go into any of them. I think, that those get reported in the news or whatnot. But also, when you think about it, you guys pay a fair wage and expect a fair day's work, but no more, right? I mean, you're not trying to take over anybody's life, and it is also incumbent on the client to make sure that we're not being that person either. You don't want to work with that person, and neither do I. Okay, so now we're going to do something a little different. We're going to reverse this. Since I'm actually a user of a virtual assistant, Tessa, why don't you interview me and ask me some questions about how I do it?
Perfect. Yes, this is awesome. So first, Ben, as one of my clients, how have you justified for yourself the risk of adding a full-time person to your staff?
Yeah, so this is like the first hurdle to get over when you're thinking about bringing on somebody to lighten your load, especially since when you're a professional, you just do all of the things. And of course, for the most part, nobody can do them, you think, as well as you can. And so maybe I'm doing something for 5 hours a week that would take somebody else longer, but man, I really want those 5 hours back. So the way I initially got into the mode of thinking about this, I will say appropriately, but that's my opinion, is really thinking about it in smaller chunks. So not, hey, I need to bring on a full-time equivalent person, or in this case, an actual full-time person for, XYZ, fee, charge, salary, whatever. But okay, can I fill somebody's time up for 20 or 40 hours in a week? And what can I fill them up with? And actually, once you start really going down that list, once I started going down that list of, okay, what can I get help with? It wasn't like this static list of, okay, this is going to take 15 minutes and this is going to take an hour and da 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 da, and like adding up. I mean, I love adding up things, but I wasn't able to add up to 40 hours a week. However, I knew that there's always other things that are coming through as well. So if I could have a nice solid list of things that were routine that I could get off my list, or even just leverage a little bit. So it's not off my list, but I'm getting a little help in getting it pushed down the process, then I would be able to fill with all kinds of other things. When I think about where I could get that help, if I can stop being a bottleneck to the rest of my team and, focus on what I need to with them, focus on the clients, focus on podcasting, whatever, I'm a little happier and I'm a little more effective. And guess what? When I'm working on spending more time on the clients, the turnaround for projects for me, because we're mostly project based, the turnaround on projects is faster. And when that happens, revenue accelerates, and actually that goes into profit. So, oftentimes I hear people say, well, if you pay this person XYZ, but then you could bill another hour. Like that's true, but it's very, very much a facile argument, because of course you're not going to take that hour that you were used to be checking emails and put it right into a billable hour. That doesn't really happen. I mean, it can, but not most of the time. What it is for me is, okay, that turns into 15 minutes of more direct billable time. That turns into 15 minutes of working more with a one of the project managers, and then 15 minutes of going to my kid's hockey game or whatever, right? So that's where the math works out for me, where it's not just math. It has to be part of it, obviously. But that's it. And of course, what else can the team use the VA for? Not just me. So I try to be very careful about saying that our VA is the team's VA, not just Ben's assistant. First off, I don't need to have that much ego, despite being up on video here. But also, I mean, really, again, it's a team effort, not just a Ben effort. About it.
Yeah, that's awesome. That's a great answer. I love the way you have utilized your VA. And anyway, it's been a great model even for us to understand better how we can show clients how this works. So
Would you say I'm a
So
model client? Is that what you're saying? I'm a model client?
absolutely. Yes. Okay. What kind of core tasks do you use the VA for, like specifically?
Sure. Yeah. Let's get actionable. Um, so one of the things I kept thinking about when getting ready for having a VA, and in implementing and integrating that into my everyday life. Have you ever read the 4 Hour Work Week, the book by Tim Ferriss?
I have not.
Oh, you should, because it basically says, "Hey, you need a VA." That's
I'll put that on my list.
one of the big takeaways. And 4 Hour Work Week, obviously, that's specious for most people. I mean, I'm not even trying to work 4 hours in a week only. I don't want that. I like what I do. And I don't really have enough other things to fill the other 36 hours with anyway. I guess I could fill it with the kids, but not enough hobbies at this point. But I would recommend to you and anybody else to go out and read that book, just because it has some really great philosophical ideas about how to leverage yourself and not tie your own self-worth to how much you're tied to your desk. It's a little bit freeing if you kind of let it soak in. So sorry, that was a little high level. Let's get actually actionable. So the very first place that I had Geraldine is our wonderful VA. The very first place I had her jump in was actually in email, creating an email basically sorting system. And I won't go into the details right now, but basically every single email that comes inbound to me goes through her first. She filters it through, and puts things that I don't need to worry about or don't need to worry about right now into a certain place, puts things that I do need to worry about right now in another place, and messages me if there's an emergency. It's not that I'm not checking my email all the time still, which I absolutely am, but it does focus it up. So when I am checking my email all the time now, there's no time wasted on things that aren't important. That's super important. And she's able to take care of some things like scheduling meetings, which I'll get to in a second, that I don't have to ever worry about. And that's really important, because when I'm so busy, then having that friction between jumping between tasks and just the decision making. I mean, you get decision fatigue. And so if some of that, I'll say, just easier decision making is done by Geraldine, man, that's saves my decision making energy, if you will, for just stuff that I'm going to have to be dealing with anyway. So things that to be more actionable here, giving Geraldine some guidance as to these are the things that constitute, important, and these are the things that aren't, and helping her sort, and of course using the technological tools within, in our case, Outlook, to help her leverage herself is important as well. So the net result is really 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 useful. Let's see what else we have. Calendar management. So basically every meeting, especially every external meeting, goes through the VA, Geraldine, because she knows how to read my calendar, what's in it, what's important, what can be moved around, and is able to provide that touch to the other person that I'm trying to organize a meeting with. Like, hey, you're not getting shunted off to Calendly. I like Calendly. We actually use Calendly to back up Geraldine, and she uses it as a tool. However, sometimes, if you ever get that email, go look at my calendar and pick a slot, that's fine. Sometimes that can come off a little bit impersonal, or at least that's what I found with some of my clients and referral sources. So I do love the fact that Geraldine, a lovely person, can go talk to them and offer some suggestions, not just say do it yourself. Yeah. So I think we've had a much better response, and I'll say maybe even quicker turnaround with scheduling meetings by doing it that way. Again, leveraging myself with Geraldine, and then Geraldine leveraging herself even with some technology to back it up. Because again, she does use Calendly attached to my calendar. And I'll say those are just the two easy, low hanging fruit type of tasks. But man, there's just all kinds of things that just pop up. We found that, guess what? I hate doing time entry like every other professional service person ever. So she does it for me based on my calendar. I feel like I'm outing myself a little bit, but I didn't start my firm to do timekeeping. And especially not if I can get somebody else to do it for me. So so she does. That may be a little bit of a kind of a guilty admission there, but she also works on our CRM, which, by the way, I didn't have time to really even do much of until I had Geraldine. So we kind of have a CRM that is at least functioning minimally because of using a VA. Stuff like arranging travel, hotel stays, helping me create presentations. AI can't do that by itself. Now, AI helps her do it. AI helps me do it. But again, if you use AI for the whole presentation, it'd be very boring. So again, using technology to leverage somebody who is also leveraging, my time is super important. Let's see, research. What else? Really, just anything that a smart, motivated person can do, she does, and that's the important part. Sorry, that was kind of a long answer, but I have a lot to say.
No,
because
that's
she's
great. That's a great answer. And I totally agree with you. Sometimes some of those things that you don't necessarily think take a lot of your time, it's amazing how much time is freed when you do delegate. And you find new avenues that you didn't even know you could use this person for. So that was a great answer, Ben. Okay, my next question is kind of launching off of that same track, is how do you know what you can use your VA for?
Right. That absolutely is crucial, because I can say I want all these things all day long, but if it's not within the skill set of the other person, then that's not going to be a good fit, or its expectations are going to be misaligned, all that stuff. So really, first off, and you had alluded to it before, you have to define the role. Like, what really are the key things that I need this person to do? Is it bookkeeping? Is it like a lot of small offices do? Is it answering the phone? Is it X, Y, and Z? So the really understanding what a virtual assistant should do for you as kind of the target is super important, so that you can go find that person, or a little pool of people to interview. And of course, in your process, I was able to interview those people that you had already winnowed down to a really excellent pool. And that then it was kind of a relatively easy process, and a not totally unenjoyable process of getting to know a couple of people who are very skilled, and then be able to pick the right one that I thought would work the best with us. And so, really understanding, what are the have to haves and what are the nice to haves, if there are any, and how far down the skill set you need to go. So, for example, I mentioned the CRM before. Does this person need to be a Salesforce master, or be a HubSpot guru, or do they really just need to know basic data entry and how to deal with that? Because both of those are dealing with the CRM, but they're very different in the type of person you would need to handle that task. And if you're talking about, well, I need somebody who's really good at Salesforce, obviously now we're not talking about a VA anymore. We're talking about a very different person, and that's, again, totally okay. Just get clear about what are the roles that you actually need. In a similar vein, do you need somebody who can create a PowerPoint and put your logo on it, or do you need somebody who can create your logo from scratch? Also two different things. And as I said, the term VA is broadly overused, because it can be applied to people who do three different roles. it can be misapplied. When I need somebody who's really, who's answering the phones, maybe, but that's different than somebody making sales calls, even though, functionally they seem the same. They're just totally not. Let's see. I guess all I would say, from the expectation standpoint is, even though, especially for a professional service practice, some things seem very easy or maybe not complex. It doesn't mean that the other person necessarily is going to know that off the bat, and it's not going to be, learning anything is not going to be easy the first time anyway. So I think there are some people out there who really think that even though a VA really can come and improve a person's life, like mine, they kind of think of it as getting a cut rate superhero to save them, right? You can't approach life that way. And particularly, if a client came to you and said, well, I need you to fix all my problems and you need to do it right now and you need to do it for cheap, you would probably hang up the phone. And so that same thing happens here. And then also, once the person is in, once the VA is in, you figure it out. There's that. Not to cop out, but say this is, the team member is a real person too, just like you are. So they have particular strengths and particular weaknesses and, hidden skill sets a lot of times. So they probably do have some hidden superpowers, just maybe not the, not Superman level. So you have to figure that out. And, here, I'll just say this is probably a good time to give a shout out to Geraldine. Hey, Geraldine, you want to come on and say hi?
My camera is not showing. Ah, cool.
There she is.
There she is.
All right. Thank you. And, actually, it turns out one of her superpowers is the fact that, just with a little extra self-motivated learning and a little guidance, she's actually the producer of this show. And she's a VA. So honestly, I think that's so good. It's great. I'm so excited about it. But also, you can't expect every VA to be able to do that, because that was just kind of the hidden bonus with Geraldine in particular, who's also very good at the rest of the job. Let's not forget that. But that wasn't on the list of things that I had to have. It just happened, thankfully. You need to really get an understanding of where you can use a VA best.
Yeah. So correct me if I'm wrong, but your usage of Geraldine has over time grown because of your familiarity with her skills.
Oh gosh, absolutely. And I really have to make sure that I'm not overusing her, because there's, at this point, I think there's even more than the number of hours available that I could use her for. So it's gone from a question of, okay, well, what can I use her for to make the, the monetary piece of this work, to how, what's the most important stuff I can get done?
Yeah. Yeah, that's good. Well, I think that's really key in how you've learned what Geraldine's capable of over time. So you didn't overload her on the first couple of weeks. You waited to see how you could use her best. And it's been awesome. Okay, the next question is, how do you get used to this? How do you get used to offloading your tasks? How do you get used to delegating when you're somebody who's used to doing it all yourself?
Yeah. This is actually the real challenge. This is really the challenge. This really pops up with people, well, like me, like professionals, like CPAs and attorneys, where if we get something wrong, there can be big consequences, right? And so when we're in that, something that feels pretty high stakes, and it is, let me not prevaricate on that. When you are in that instance, delegation can be hard. And so on the one hand, that's all true. On the other hand, I don't want to kind of bensplain this whole thing, but on the other hand, you do need to delegate. Otherwise, you're going to be a solo forever. And so, which is fine. Be a solo forever. I don't. That's a perfectly good way of operating your life and your business. But if going down this road of expanding, you have to get used to delegating, and whether that person is in Colombia or in India or in LA or New York or wherever, the same concepts totally apply. So it's really just about you. Delegating is a skill that you can work on just like anything else. So, some of the work that you do may be less risky than other work. And so you start somebody out on that until the trust factor and the skill level can be vetted out. I think that we make a lot of our, high risk, high reward, or whatever type of situation where we should probably be thinking about even more high risk situations. Like, what about an operating room surgeon? They are the professional. You get the head surgeon in there. They're the most qualified person in the room, and another person's life often actually rests in the balance. But you don't see them going alone, right? They're not in there by themselves. They have a team of people supporting them, and not everybody is as good or skilled or whatever at surgery as that head surgeon. But in order to make the very high stakes surgery go off, you need the nurse, you need suction, you need the anesthesiologist, which is also a very high skilled position. But at the same time, everybody has their own job, and at the same time, the head surgeon can have direct responsibility based on establishing the procedure and the trust and the communication amongst everybody, which is why it's important to have your process in place.
Yeah, it's absolutely true. And it's a great example too, because like you mentioned, when you go to surgery, the anesthesiologist and the doctor, the doing the surgery, everybody has their own role and everybody excels in what their role is. So in that sense, you just are basically implementing the same concept in a professional setting, like your practice. So it's a great answer, Ben. Oh, I have one more question. This is actually probably one of the more important questions too. And I'm actually very curious to know how you answer this question, because we do meet all of our employees in person. So I'm curious to know how you would answer this as somebody from a distance. How do you build trust with somebody that's so far away that you've actually never met in person? How do you establish that rapport?
That is an interesting, good question. Well, it helps. You can't always do it this way, but it helps when there is a basis to start from, meaning there's a transfer of trust. So, for example, I had gotten to know you over time, Tessa, and had built a rapport and some trust with you, such that when you were recommending some people, I could take a little bit of a leap of faith that they probably didn't suck, and that turned out pretty darn okay. But that's not always the case. And, that still begs the question, well, how do you establish, trust and relationship with Tessa in the first place, for example? It's like any relationship, you basically have an expectation going in and allow the other person to meet expectation or not meet expectation, figure out what that means and where it's coming from. I mean, obviously, if somebody is being genuine and trying to meet you halfway, then you can continue down the path. It's not do I now trust this person or now I don't trust this person? It takes a long time to establish trust and rapport. And if I give feedback, like if I say, hey, Tessa, I need something different, I need you to change something, or this isn't really working, let's talk about it. How is it that person responds? And are they coming at it from a defensive posture or a constructive posture? And then, also, do you like the person? And I don't mean like necessarily going to have a beer, although we can have a cerveza anytime. But also, like, most people really do have a good feeling for whether the other person's a good person. You have a good rat detector. And again, you don't just jump in to the deep end of the pool, you go slowly. And so, we can extend trust. And if we, if Tessa makes a promise to me and then she doesn't keep it, then that tells me something about her. If, but when she does, as she always has, you've always, kept your promises, then okay, this, up to this point, at least, this is a person that, I can rely on to deliver on their word. And then you build slowly from there. I mean, at some point, I think the caution is is unwarranted. It is off, and now we have a great relationship. Even and even if at some point there's a slip up, there was a lot of goodwill built now, so that wouldn't be the killer at that point. Okay, so thank you. That was fun. I turning it around and me being the one to answer the questions was kind of fun. Thanks for that. And I'll take the reins again. Now, are there any last thoughts that you have that you want to leave the listeners with about virtual assistants, Colombia, or anything?
Well, my last thoughts, I guess, would be I think Colombia is a very highly misunderstood country coming from the United States. I think most of Americans think of this as, I don't know, the show Narcos or something. But honestly, it's this country is wonderful. I love the people here. I love the culture. I've really enjoyed my time living here. And I think I can probably safely speak for you, Ben, in saying that you've enjoyed your time meeting Geraldine, knowing a little bit more about her and your small sample size of the Colombian culture. So,
absolutely. Well, I know Sam too.
Yeah, that's true. And I would just probably say Colombia is a lot more than the stereotypes. That would be my takeaway piece. And about virtual assistants, I think there's real potential out there for a lot of use for them if people can, like you have, open your minds into different ways that you can use them, and understand the value of it, not just for you, like you were mentioning earlier, not just for you professionally, but it's also opened up avenues for you to have a happier personal life. So if people can just see that and utilize it, that's my main plug, I guess, for virtual assistants.
Well, I think that may lead into one of the other questions that I was going to ask you. Why is this rewarding to you? What you do, why is it rewarding? And I mean, you are helping people every day.
Yeah. Actually, that's been one of the unexpected benefits, I guess, to this business that when we first started out, I did not anticipate, was finding out that this could be immensely rewarding for us. It's enriched our lives. We've gotten to know people that we would have never been connected with otherwise. And it's because we're still kind of a small operation. We're still like a family with our employees. We've had them over to our house for pizza. We've done karaoke nights with them. I mean, that was one time, but it probably maybe we shouldn't do that again. Anyway, but what I mean is just that, like, the unexpected reward for this, for me, has been just getting to know these people, and they're amazing. They've been incredible for us, and it's been really rewarding for just me personally. And I think I can safely speak for my husband too. Like, it's been really great for us to kind of expand our family, even in Colombia. So,
awesome. Okay, just a couple of very quick get to know you questions. I mean, we're all trying to improve ourselves. What are you reading these days?
That's a funny question. I just actually finished reading Audit and Assurance. It's a textbook because I was finishing my bachelor's degree in accounting. But that's done. So now I'm looking forward to picking up a novel for the first time in a while. So I have time to actually read a book. But based on your recommendation, I might pick up the 4-Hour Workweek as my next read.
Excellent. All right. And where can people find you?
They can find me they can email me at tessa@birdieconsulting.com. Or you can search for me on LinkedIn under Tessa Baragasa at Birdie Consulting.
All right. Awesome. Well, thank you so much for joining us. And thank you to all the listeners out there for sticking it out to the end. Join us next time to hear more about how to maximize your value. Bye.